Hello again, friends, gamers, geeks, nerds of all kind. Thanks again for listening to this tiny little podcast on the interwebs and on YouTube, or wherever you may find streaming video at your convenience. So today I wanted to talk about communities. And it seems like a pretty obvious topic to talk about from a fan's perspective, since that's how our interaction, right? That's how we get to know each other, through communities. Whether you're starting a website or if you join a popular video game forum, those are all communities. And that's where we like to engage and talk about the games that we love. So it's just, I can't believe I haven't been talking about this earlier, especially because a lot of, I think, my angst and disappointment when it comes to video games and media is because it's a failure on the part of either the company or the community manager, i.e. their public relations. And so I think that I just wanted to start with, yes, communities are important. And they're often overlooked. Overlooked to the detriment, I think, of the video game companies and the developers. I think that if they want to maximize their profits, line their pockets, sell a lot of copies of a game, they have to have an active media strategy. They have to have an active community relations strategy. They need to engage. And a lot of them do. There's been a lot said about how Minecraft has done this extremely well, better than most, and developing a community, fostering it, responding to issues in the community. Anytime there's a game, when they listen to the people who are screaming the loudest on the forums and they respond to issues and provide the patches, address issues regarding cheating, things like that, trolling, whatever. Those are the companies that understand it and they get it. The companies that pay lip service, the companies that just put out the blanket Facebook updates, like here's our Facebook strategy for Valentine's or February because it's Black History Month, you got President's Day and Valentine's, so we're going to have tweets and Facebook messages related to all of those. That's lazy, right? I mean, that's the kind of like community relations strategy that's run in an elementary school cafeteria. Oh, it's Valentine's Day, let's put some hearts on the wall. Okay, that's really how you're going to run your gaming company when you want to engage in the gamers and the players? Because there's an interesting article, and I'm getting at this because there's an interesting article in gamingindustry.com, and it's about communities. And they're using the term social whale. I've talked before in the social media environment that what companies are really after, what advertisers are after, is they're after the influencers. That's people that have a lot of followers, subscribers on YouTube. Anytime you talk about a big YouTuber or a big social media presence, they're an internet famous. Okay, advertisers love that person because they are influencers. If they talk highly about one product and poorly about another, guess which product sells? The former. So, social whales in gaming. Why hasn't video games taken advantage of this? Because at a certain point, video games, they're still stuck in like the 1980s. They still believe that enough marketing, enough slick promos, a big E3 launch, and they'll sell enough copies. And that they have brand loyalty. You know, you're either a Nintendo person or a Sega person. You're either an Xbox person or a Sony person. They still believe in that. Not understanding that it's a new age, brother. There's this thing called the internet and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and Tumblr and I don't know. I mean, how many are there? There'll be a new one tomorrow. And so when are they going to take advantage of these communities? That's why communities are important. Because communities are where the social whales are. You've got to find those social whales. You've got to make them happy. You got to make them enjoy the game. And sometimes when I'm complaining about YouTube or some of the personalities and I say, hey, you're not addressing the more serious issues. You're just concerned with being courted by the large companies and advertisers. So some companies do get it. You know, Activision is going to fly out some of their top YouTubers to test play the next Call of Duty title. EA does it with Battlefield. So at a certain point, they understand that these guys are social whales, they're influencers, we're going to treat them nice. And then I'm the type of person who's going to get upset and say, hey, look, you've got this great opportunity, social whale, Mr. Influencer. Why don't you take advantage of it? Why don't you use your influence to actually make a positive change? I don't mean to harp on this, but even going back to some of the social issues regarding games, I'm going to say it again with the whole idea of the gay protagonist. You can't have it because companies are afraid it won't sell. Well, guess who has the power to make that happen? Social whales. The influencers. If enough YouTubers were calling for games to involve these type of characters, it would happen. And that's what I mean by, use your power for good, right? With great power comes great responsibility, Mr. Parker. So yeah. But communities are important. And it seems like only half the time the video game companies, publishers or developers, I'm throwing them all in the same lot, are even aware of it. You need an influencer, and you need the media's help when you're trying to advertise. But we're past the days of slick ads. Community managers, and a more engaged community is, like I said, is more about just putting out a pretty picture, a nice slick tagline. It takes real engagement. It takes real response. It takes real people, because gamers are cynical. Modern day tech savvy early adopters are cynical about everything. They want to know that you're real. The moment they know that this is not real, these are canned responses, that these things are scheduled updates, your community gets disinterested. And when you pay them lip service and you don't deliver on promises, whether it's a certain type of feature involved in the game, a follow-up title, characters, whether they reemerge or get killed off, those sorts of things, that upsets your community. Fans can be crazy. We've talked about angry fanboys and girls. Well, you can't just ignore them. You can't just ignore the hate. If they're screaming about a certain aspect of your game, maybe it's time that you actually addressed it and changed it. Because again, you can only put so many fresh coats of paint on that. I mean, you actually want your community to feel like they're involved and they're actually building that barn, not just looking at the painted colors. And that's a terrible metaphor. How did you let me slip into that one? All right, so is YouTube a community? That's an interesting kind of question. I'm sure a lot of people would say it is. But within the community, that you have YouTubers, and then people can maybe comment in that one YouTube section. But is YouTube really a community? And I've often said that even this like radio, this podcast, this audio experience, or if you're watching me on YouTube, this video experience, it's a one-to-one relationship. I'm only talking to you right now. I'm not talking to a wide group, so I don't believe it's actually a community. You don't sit around with your friends watching a YouTube video and commenting on it at the same time. But when you're on Reddit or you're on the Destructoid forums, you are commenting and people are commenting back. You can be in real time with some other people. Even Facebook, you can be in real time chatting or commenting about things. And Twitter can be in real time. This YouTube video, not real time. This podcast is not real time. If you comment, it takes a while for me to get back to you. And like I said, you're not commenting with your friends. So is there really a community? Do you need a community manager to manage your YouTube channel? And that's also where I think that in certain aspects, some of these whales, some of these social influencers that exist on YouTube, it might be some misplaced. It might be some misplaced energy on behalf of the developers, publishers, anybody who's trying to market and advertise their product. Because it's not a real community, it's just more traditional advertising. Just dressed up in a way that seems more natural so that cynical consumer doesn't feel like they're being lied to. It doesn't feel like a commercial. It's not a paid actor on television telling you to use the newest acne cream or hair products. I'm talking to the women out there because guys just don't care about that sort of stuff. In fact, I thought it was strange. I watched for the very first time a razor commercial for manscaping. Like, really? I thought, number one, that commercial is not going to convince me to want to do it. And I thought, well, I'm clearly not their demographic. But what younger guy is going to be persuaded by that commercial where you have like actors doing it, right? And they're like all looking good and it doesn't look like they need to shave at all. Like, honestly, If they took like a real guy and I was trying to, if I was doing a YouTube video and I was doing manscaping, shaving my chest, it would be a nightmare. It would be terrible. It would be horrible. People would have to avert their eyes or forever be scarred. All the curly black hair, all the redness. Oh, he nicked himself. Oh my God. So I thought you can't do that on a YouTube commercial, but then the traditional slick commercials, well, how does that play out? I just don't see, like, why? Why are they making commercials like that? But anyway, YouTube, I believe, is just more traditional advertising. I believe that's one part. The other part is, I think it's real, like, new media in the terms of entertainment, in the terms of journalism or commentary, news, editorials. I believe that it's new media in that regard. But I think it's old in the regards of, hey, let's look at some gameplay or a walkthrough of a new game that's coming out. And on day one, you know what channels you can go to get day one gameplay of Titanfall, for example. Okay, that's advertising. Because certain people have had access to the game before others and had video ready to go. And they were just sitting on it waiting for the day one to hit. That's not some organic community sharing information about the game. But as far as real communities are concerned, those old school message boards and forums, which I used to hate message boards and forums, that's where the real community is. That's where your real engagement is. That's where you would have to live. If you're going to be a video game community manager, that's where you spend your time. Twitter is more like a broadcasting social tool. Not a lot of engagement takes place there. But you want to be able to be reached and contacted so you can get back with someone. But those forums, that's where things live. That's where it thrives, in my humble opinion. But going back to YouTube. So, communities are important. And why I think that the video game companies are kind of missing the entire picture on, and like I said, this is just for me sitting back, giving my analysis. My public affairs, relations, marketing information is years old. Then the last college class I took at University of Maryland was well over, maybe 15 years ago. So look, I'm not with it on today's standards. I keep up just like the rest of you. So I don't know anything more than you do. But I spend a lot of time thinking about it. I spend a lot of time trying to read about it and keep up on it. And I would tell you that I think that where the video game companies and the community managers are wasting some of their effort is putting effort into creating slick, disguised advertisements under the guise of community gameplay footage from some of your biggest social whales and influencers. Because when they're not doing that, because when they don't have social whales making that sort of slick advertisement, what are the video game companies doing? They're coming down with copyright claims on actual YouTubers that are just out there just doing it for the love of the game. Real community members. And sometimes they're just, maybe they've modded a game and they're presenting a new game type out there for the community. Publisher doesn't like it, copyright claim. And then you get into the whole fair use issue. Oh, they're not allowed to do that. It's fair use. No, I'm sorry, YouTuber. You don't quite understand what fair use is. And even if you're into fan art, you don't quite understand what fair use is. Just because a lot of people are doing it, and just because their stuff hasn't received a copyright claim, doesn't mean that that's legitimate. Those are not cases. That doesn't create new case law just because a company decided not to go after you. That's not case law. Case law would be they came after you, you hired lawyers, you defended yourself, and the judge handed down the verdict and defended you. Now that sets a precedent for case law. Well, that's not happening. What's happening is these companies they cherry pick. Oh, these people are doing something we don't like. They're saying something bad about our product. We'll go after them. You're doing something we like. You're promoting our product. You're okay. And it's completely it's their discretion. And by the way, YouTube and Google, they're complicit in all of this, and they are enablers. You get up to the highest levels of the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and it's just a big show. It's a big show. Don't even attempt to try and think logically and come up with your defense and say, well, look, I'm doing it for these reasons, and I really love the game, and it is fair use because it's transformative in nature, and I'm only using 10% of the original content, and I'm adding new content to it. I'm providing a comment, and it's also a parody. And all of those things would be reasons why it's fair use. It doesn't matter. That company wants to hire a lawyer and file a copyright claim. Now the onus is on you. Whip out your checkbook, defend yourself. If you can't, guess what? The big truck rolls over you. That's what happens, people. In fact, I can't remember where I read this on the internet, but just believe me that it's true. That if you do hire a lawyer, if you receive a copyright claim for one of your YouTube videos, if you hire a lawyer, chances are you'll be back up and running. They're bullying you. That's what a copyright claim pretty much is, just a bully tactic. And to prove it, to prove that it's just bullying and how ridiculous this gets. All right, this is from the Kernel website, Kernel. I'm only saying it once. You got to go look it up. You got to do your own damn homework. You can't hold your hand all day long. But that's not why you come here. You don't come here for homework. No, I'm going to give you a synopsis. I'm going to summarize it for you. I've already read this article. I've got your back, man. I'm there with you. That's why I'm here. That's why I exist. To read these boring-ass articles and try and find the angle that the average person who likes video games and YouTubing and all that good stuff, why it's important to them. So here's why. There's a video blogger named Miles Power. He was hit with multiple copyright infringement notices from YouTube, threatening to delete his videos and take all of his pages offline. Why? What did he do wrong? Remember, copyright infringement. He was critiquing this other group that has YouTube videos. They are AIDS denialist. That means their videos, I think it's part of what's called House of Numbers documentary. I think that's these AIDS denialists. That's if you research that, House of Numbers. And basically these guys are saying that the entire AIDS epidemic was completely made up. It's perpetrated by the drug companies to sell you more drugs. No one has AIDS. HIV is not real. That's what they're saying. So this guy, Miles Power, is critiquing them, saying, look, these guys are nuts. So in his YouTube videos, he references them and uses some of their footage, and bam, now you got copyright infringement. Because the AIDS denialist filed a copyright claim under DCMA against Miles Power, and now his videos got taken offline. He was bullied. He was bullied by these crackpots that are just making stuff up. And that's how you know that this copyright infringement claim system is completely flawed and screwed up. Thank goodness there's people like the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They're basically, if you ever feel like you've been wronged online for this, contact them. They'll help you out. But look, I'm not telling you to just go cowboy out there and treat it like the Wild Wild West. But at a certain aspect of YouTube and online and internet freedom is the Wild Wild West. And my advice, I can't give you advice, but this is what I would do. This is what I'm going to do. I don't make gameplay videos, but if I did, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to put up whatever I want. Okay? And if you got a problem with it, you come after me. That's it. Just bring it on. We'll handle it. I'm not going to be bullied, and I'm not going to be afraid. And chances are, these video game companies are not going to do that. But getting back to community. This is how you know that most the publishers, they're bipolar when it comes to the community. On one hand, they think that, yes, we got to leverage the community. We got to support YouTube. We got to embrace this new media because it can further our marketing campaigns, and we can reach more potential gamers and consumers, and we can sell more copies, and we can make more money. And then on the other hand, they're like, no, you're not doing it the right way. We want you to do it in this certain aspect. And you're completely missing the point of how a community exists. You can't control it. You have to let it grow organically. You got to be hands off. If they want to make videos where it's just nothing but fart noises throughout the entire gameplay, and that's what's up on YouTube, let it go. One, if nobody's watching it, no, who cares? That tree in the forest, right? And what if it gets 1 million hits? People are still watching that gameplay, and now you have an influencer. Even if the 1 million people who click to watch aren't interested in the game, they're just interested in the fart noises, you still have a new social whale on your hands. And that person likes your game because they chose to play it. Now all you need to do is just foster and take care of that person, because when it comes time to him to talk to his friends and all of his subscribers and listeners, he can tell them, I really like this game. I like this. I actually play this game sometimes without making fart noises because it's that good of a game. Now you have an influencer. Why is that so hard? Why is that concept eluding most of these companies? Why is it? It's either on one hand, it's some sort of adversarial relationship with their YouTubers, and on the other hand, it's some sort of, like I said, it's some slick marketing campaign to trick and fool you. It's why I hate Microsoft and 343 right now. And I wouldn't trust them as far as you can throw them, right? To use another cliche. And that's because it's all lip service. And if you haven't learned anything over the past, 4 or 5 years, then you're never going to learn. And I don't care who they hire as a community manager. Which, by the way, they don't give a shit about their community managers. And most companies don't. Now, I follow that guy, Cliff Bleszinski, on Twitter, and I think he hates me. Because I was so pissed off whenever he tweeted about Gears of War. When he had that interview when he said something like, he didn't like the way it turned out. I was like, well, I'm sure you cashed all those checks, though. He didn't take too kindly to that response, so he's probably blocked me. And who am I? He's not watching my Twitter feed or anything. But still, I did like what he had to say about community managers, and that if he formed a new studio, that'd be the first person he hired. Whereas other companies like Chucklefish, the makers of Terraria, I think that's the name of it, here's how they hired their community manager. A girl responds to a tweet from Chucklefish or someone from Chucklefish saying they're looking for voice actors. She just happens to be the first person to respond saying, hey, I want to be a voice actor. And now they get in touch with her. They get some recordings, they start talking about it. Nope, it's not going to work out. For whatever reason. They're not going to hire her as a voice actor. So then she just says, probably in an email or a Skype session or something else, or Twitter or Facebook, she just says, hey, do you need a community manager? Because I'd like to be one. And they say, hey, we don't have that. Yeah, I guess we could use a community manager. You're hired. That's it. That's it. How serious can some of these companies... How serious can they be about their community when they literally just hire their community manager off of Twitter? Off of Twitter! Which means they've hired them and they really don't give a crap what they're doing. I think it was like 2 years ago or more. I don't know. The time is just flying by these days. I took a volunteer position to help out an additional video game community. I don't need to say names. Dude's doing all right. They're doing fine. He's an influencer. He's a social whale. Microsoft takes care of their little man. I got no beef with that. But he wanted me to do a job, and then whenever I was recommending to him, hey, this is maybe how you should, run your social media and do these things, and the stuff wasn't crazy out of the box thinking. It wasn't non-conventional. It was like, hey, it's social media. You got to share other people's stuff. That's like something anybody in the social media business would tell you. You've got to engage everybody. It's not about competition. Yeah, he told me basically go pound sand. He knows more than me. It's like, well, then fine. I don't know why you wanted me to help out if you know what you're doing anyway. And that's kind of where we left off the relationship. I don't know. I kind of don't know why you asked me to help you if you're not going to listen. And then I think about some of these other community managers. So what you're going to have is you're going to have some fan that's going to get hired as a community manager because the company doesn't give a shit about the position. They just know, hey, we should have this person. They're going to put you in that position, and then when you actually take it seriously and want to give recommendations or advice, they're not going to listen to you because they don't respect the role of the community manager and they don't feel it's important. That's what's taking place. That's why GameIndustry.com wrote an article about it, because that's what's happening. Half the companies don't understand community. They don't realize how to treat them. And some do. And you have people that have no business filling those roles or those jobs, and then you have other people who are really good at it. I know this for a fact because whenever I was public affairs in the Marine Corps, a commander of a Marine Expeditionary Unit, he's a colonel. He commands about 1,200 Marines that can wage war and bring hell on earth for about 30 days without support, resupply, or contact. That's a lot of firepower. We're talking tanks, we're talking airplanes, we're talking artillery, ground troops, special forces assistant. The MU's capable of fulfilling somewhere between 30, 40 special operations. They can do a lot of stuff. For that small of a unit and that kind of firepower just floating around the oceans, just waiting for a 911 call from America, you have a second lieutenant as your public affairs officer? Someone right out of OCS? I was the combat correspondent, the lowest rank. I was a sergeant. I reported to a gunnery sergeant and had a second lieutenant in charge of us. And every time we would go into a different area, and officers supposed to put together the public affairs campaign because we're supposed to try and win the hearts and minds, right? We're trying to dispel host nation sensitivities, those sorts of things. Hey, we're the Marines, and we're going to go paint some churches. So we're going to bring some food and books to some schools. We're going to do all these humanitarian efforts because we don't want people to be afraid of the Marines, the big, bad, angry troops that are coming ashore with guns. Okay? That's our role in public affairs. To tell all the good stories. And explain to people when we are conducting an operation that it's not as bad as you might think. We work for the Marine Corps. We're Marine Corps Public Affairs, okay? What did my lieutenant do? If he wasn't playing PlayStation in his stateroom and playing Madden all day long? Really nothing but that. Because when he gets into those meetings, it wouldn't matter if he came up with an extensive public affairs campaign or plan, because he was going to get ignored. You know why? Because that colonel doesn't care about that stuff. He wants to know where his people who pull triggers, what they're doing. Are you flying a jet? Are you dropping some bombs? That's all I want to know. You're not kicking in a door, are you? Then I really don't have to listen to you in this meeting. I got so pissed. I pulled out the Public Affairs Officer's Manual, highlighted all the pages that was his job title and description and duties, that he's the most knowledgeable person on that ship to advise the colonel. It's his duty to advise the colonel of his public affairs options and the public affairs impact back home in the media. Whether the colonel is willing to receive it or not is still his duty to do that. You can guess how well that went over. Yeah, I was back in the galley. I was working in the galley for the next couple of weeks. I was like, oh, you're so worried about my job. You're not doing your job. Let's see what other job we can give you, since you're all about finding other jobs. How about you go wash dishes in the galley for the next month? Woohoo! I'm glad that I stuck my neck out. Hooray for integrity. But that's a personal experience, and that's where I come from. Because that happened to me in a public relations scenario where we did have an important job. We had something important to do. We were put there for a reason. I'm away from my home for a reason. I'm also in danger for a reason. This is my job, this is my duty, and I want to do it. I'm not just out here to take up space and steal other people's oxygen. That's not why I'm put here. Now, clearly, it's not life or death in the video game industry. But I see another public relations, public affairs, community manager failure on the part of some of these companies and the people they're finding to fill these roles. I'm sorry, your 10 years involved in competitive video gaming does not make you a media relations specialist. And I don't know, your combined 20 hours of college classes doesn't make you an expert either. Sorry I had to get all heated there, but listen, all I would urge everybody to do is that if you belong to a community, if you frequent certain websites and forums, be proactive on our end as a community. We should engage those community managers and test them. Because look, they might slowly realize their role. They might secretly know how important the job is. Maybe they are frustrated. And they need a groundswell of support from the community to tell them, hey, drop this adversarial act towards YouTubers. Leave them the hell alone. Support everything they do. Don't cherry pick it anymore. And stop giving them lip service. When you delay a game, tell them exactly why it's delayed. Don't make shit up. Because look to Xbox. Your Xbox One is still not selling very well. You had the public relations nightmare before it launched with all the DRM issues and the used Xbox sales and the always on Connect. You fired some people and you're still lagging behind Sony. You guys love it when I get fired up. I'm sorry, I'm not talking to guys or girls. It's not a group. You're not huddled around in your dorm room listening to this podcast, drinking a 40. That would be awesome if you were. I want that Snapchat. I want that Pinterest. Everybody drinking beer, listening to the Gamers on Tap podcast. Holy shit, that's a good idea. We should start like a photo thing for Friday nights. Anybody who's having like a gaming party, beer involved, pictures. Yes, that would be awesome. All right, well, until next time. Have the discussion. Jump on your favorite community forum today and engage the community manager. Whoever not the forum moderators, I want you to actually reach out and make the titles, hey, community manager, we want to talk. And create a dialogue and engage that person, whoever's filling that job, and let them know how you feel about the game, why you love the game, what you'd hope to play in the future. Because that's the constructive criticism we should be giving back to them. Not, I don't like this bullcrap feature, or I don't like that you got rid of this gun. I don't like that we don't have these sort of options or features in the game. Talk about the features in the game that you enjoy, that you like. And if there's not enough of it, or you feel it might be going away, just say, hey, I really like this feature and I'd like to see more of it. Be more positive in your comments. Engage those community managers, and maybe, just maybe, the executives and the people in the suits that are smarter than everybody else in the room, maybe they'll actually listen. Because at the very least, they're not going to make you work in the galley. For speaking your mind. All right, thanks for listening. Leave a comment, subscribe, share, tweet. Don't be afraid to have this discussion. Thanks again. Sincerely, I am Gunner, and this was the Gamers on Tap podcast.